Hey, this is Alex Head, founder of Subtext Radio.
This is Subtext.
Please go ahead and click the like button and the subscribe button. It really helps us to reach new audiences and promote the artists that we work with. Hit like and hit subscribe.
All right, we'll do 3, 2, but we don't say the 1. This is selected. Okay, you do it.
Okay. 3, 2.
Should we do it again?
No, it's fine. It's fine. Did you clap?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I clapped, so that's fine.
But I think we clapped at different times.
No. Well, it only really makes sense if one of us claps.
I wasn't sure. You do it. This is brilliant. I'll count and you clap. How about that?
Wait.
Say.
Okay, but you're not going to hear my clap on your Zoom in the room recording, which is entirely the point. So let's put the video back on, and then we can synchronize it. Am I right?
This is all recording. I think this is all brilliant off-air gems.
This is off-air gems.
You describe the clap thing, because I think I don't understand this. You just tell me what I need to do.
So we're going to clap. So we synchronize the beginning of the audio material, which you're recording and I'm recording in the room, so that when we patch this together afterwards, we have the same starting point.
All right.
Simple as that, right? So do your fingers like 1, 2, 3, clap.
Okay. Because last time we didn't clap at the same time last time.
Yeah, exactly. And that makes it, not helpful. So yeah, that's about as good as we're going to get it with digital delay.
Off you go, Alex. Take it away.
All right. Well, shouting. So I'm going to start with shouting, and then, as per the format, you're going to go with shouting. So.
Okay.
Well, what I realized is that shouting, obviously, what I was thinking in any case was that shouting has got nothing to do with raising your voice so much as having an impact. And there was this actually very good podcast by Greta Thunberg, which is just a one-off that she did because she was unable to get to a conference in China that she wanted to present at. And she said something really profoundly disturbing and sort of the moment, which I thought was basically she'd been on this boat, as I guess people might be familiar with, to get to the COP25 meeting, which was going to be in like Denver or somewhere. Mm-hmm. And then basically she was on this boat and she got to America. It took her like 6 months. And they moved it to Madrid. And so she sort of spent 6 months going the wrong way around the planet to get to this thing, and she was suddenly faced with having to get back to Madrid, ASAP. So this airplane company offered to fly her there and kind of like carbon offset the flight and then do some more carbon offsetting, which would mean that it had ultimately been a carbon neutral journey. And she said that given the amount of hate speech and death threats that she gets, it would be less dangerous for her to take a sailboat across the Atlantic than to accept this offer and fly, which I thought was crazy. That's my thing on shouting.
So, shouting as in, I see, like making a point. Like, so yeah. her decision to, don't matter if we're a form, her decision to not go on the plane was her way of shouting out this reality that she's subject to those death threats.
Yeah, or like even just that particular point has the effect, and it has a much greater effect than all of the hate speech and all of the death threats and all of the shouting that goes on you know, on social media and everything combined. It's just her to like make that simple point that, you know, and then to do it, and you know, and she sort of describes the boat journey, and it is quite risky actually. You know, she has to have professional people with her, and it's the, you know, it's the open sea and everything. It's a lot more risky than taking the freighter to get to the States in the first place. So yeah, so shouting as actually an action rather than as even as a verbal thing, I think.
Cool. No, I love it. That's exactly where I'd go with shouting as well. I mean, I always think of shouting anyway because I think I'm a loud person and I do shout, unfortunately. But your point is exactly what I was thinking as well. Shouting isn't just being loud, but it's also making a statement to be heard in different ways, like to be understood or also to be visible as well. So it goes from shouting being like something that you hear to potentially representing something that you see as well. What I also think is quite interesting is this shouting. If we take this sort of common idea that shouting is a way to be heard, in like metaphorically and actually, then I was always really interested by this idea of like choosing to be silent as a way of being heard, which I think is really interesting. And I think a lot of people do this. I've heard from a lot of people doing this in sort of situations where you're asked to define yourself or you're asked to explain why something is racist. So I'm speaking maybe from a position of people of color or people who are like victims of racism, or even like people who are victims of like sexism or transphobia and things. And this idea of them being forced to explain themselves or forced to justify why they want to call something out as one of these isms. And then I've always been really touched by people who then stay silent in those moments, because I used to get really frustrated. I'm just like, don't stay silent because you've got to defend it. And then I slowly realized, like, no, they're staying silent as a way of sounds silly, right? Not silly, but it sounds like a contradiction. But they're staying silent as a way to be heard even more. Like this silence is then much louder. The fact that they are refusing to explain it. Well, we hope it then forces the people into self-reflection. Doesn't always work. Does not always work. But
it's all about who has the agency to demand an explanation, right?
Yeah, sure. And but also who in those moments has the agency to say no, like politics. It's a bit like politics of refusal, I suppose. More like, rather than silence, like refusing to say something, refusing to shout about something can sometimes be just as loud. Not always though, not always. So it's definitely an interesting one. Good one to start off with.
Yeah, and I'm glad that we both resisted the temptation to really bellow into the mic, into each other's ears.
Don't worry, but I probably am, because like my headphones are on my computer, so God knows my poor Aufnahmegerät is probably. Let me check the levels.
Check the levels.
Check levels. I'm all good.
It's a fine time to check the levels. 10 minutes in.
Ah, shit. Anyway, cut that. It was the swears. Next one.
All right, you'll go.
Hey, wait. So am I picking one for me this time? Okay.
No. Well, yeah.
Oh my God, we've got tricky ones this time. Interruptions.
Yeah.
It's quite similar, actually. I think our topics this week they all mould into each other. I was recently asked to apologise for interrupting somebody, and I spoke to a different friend about it, and I interrupted this person because I didn't like what they were saying, and it was this automatic reaction to just stop them from speaking. And it was like what they were saying was potentially very triggering, and I felt triggered by it, so I just interrupted them, and I got into a bit of trouble, and I was asked to apologise. There was like two camps. There was like one camp asking me to apologise, and the other camp which was just like, they should be apologising to you. And so it turned into this big hoo-ha. And so then I thought about this idea of interruptions, and I was talking to a friend about it, and then she was just like, yeah, you should make a piece about interruptions. And then I thought about interruptions are amazing. I freaking love interruptions, even though I sometimes really hate being interrupted.
Speak of interruptions, there's literally, I didn't make this up, there's a set of megaphones throughout this entire village where I'm staying in Czech, and they just play music randomly. I'm sorry about that.
Oh my God, everyone's going to think that we actually designed that and we didn't at all.
Yeah, no.
This is what I mean. But it's perfect. It's perfect, Alex. Like, this is what I mean about interruptions. I love interruptions because it reminds us of like overlaying histories, overlaying existences, interweaving realities, like all that stuff, you know. And that's why I do love a good interruption. And that's all I have to say on that, actually. I am for interruptions.
Yeah, and that's a nice way to put it. I pick up on that. I think there are interruptions in the day-to-day, right? I love he's turning it up. Brilliant.
It's really brilliant. It's as if they can already hear us.
I would one day, let it be known for the record, I would love to get on those megaphones. I've been coveting those megaphones for about 15 years.
Go on.
But I think there is another type. There's interruptions are also kind of in the air a little bit because, you know, this whole stream of working and living and being with people and not being with other people and everything, that's all enormously interrupted at this point. You know, and I have to admit, it's triggered a lot of reflection. And I think for a lot of people, I mean, in a way, how could you not take some time to kind of assess where you are and everything? But yeah, interruptions can really take you a new place. They can really change the script. And I think the one thing with interruptions, and it's a little bit also what you were saying, on the kind of life journey scale of things, is they do have to be negotiated and they do require a lot of care and a lot of discussion and a lot of planning and stuff. And it's a totally different thing when you know, say, this is where I live, this is my journey, this is where I am, this is where I work. And then, you know, you throw a spanner in that, which is, you know, your own decision, but a lot of other people are tied up in that as well. So interruptions with care, that's where I would like to leave that one.
Yeah, but then I'm gonna interrupt you and just add something else to it, because I think there's different levels, right? Like, I think there's interruptions with care, sure. Yeah, actually, no, interruptions with care is really good, but it's different though, isn't it? Because there's these like immediate ones, and then there's the mediated ones, and then there's the long-term ones, and then there's the kind of little quick ones that then just sort of maybe sound, just to link back to what we just saying, maybe sound very loud in that moment for whatever reason, but then they kind of, the effects of them wear off. So I think that's also interesting, like interruptions with care, but also like sustainable interruptions. Like, what does that mean?
Yeah, right. And so much of it is about rolling with the punches, right? So an interruption that's planned probably isn't really an interruption. It's a kind of retroactive. You're looking back and go, oh, I guess that kind of was an interruption within, you know, this particular direction, or behavior pattern or job or whatever. But yeah, no, the real thing is pretty hard to recreate, you know? It's just going to happen or it's not. And that's also where it's tied into humour quite a bit. I mean, I was really tempted to to do this whole interruption thing as just constantly interrupting each other.
Could have been good. Could have been good. Let's do that for form 3. We've already broken form completely, the form that was not a form.
What is form?
The what is form. But I think that it leads us to a nice point, this idea of is an interruption planned or not? Like, why cannot, and like, what makes the difference? Just what you were saying then. Like, if does an interruption always have to be something that is unplanned? Yeah,
exactly. And there's a whole bloody politics to that as well, right? I mean, I think about, you know, interventions, for example, you know, and people's choice over their own bodies, and all kinds of, you know, like interruption seems to me to be on the receiving end, whereas like a kind of, you know, you don't actively. I mean, people do say, like, in polite discourse, like, can I just interrupt you there? But then, if you've already asked, are you really interrupting? Do you know what I mean?
But if you've already asked, you've already interrupted.
Yeah, and the asking also, doing it, yeah. So that's the politics of it again, yeah.
That's why I'm all for interruptions. I'm all for interruptions. All right, moving on. We're almost talked for 20 minutes already. Go on, you'll go.
Yeah, and we're just crashing through this. All right, I'm going to have to put up stupid questions, but I'd like, if it's okay, for you to start. Just because I feel like I quite enjoy that way of doing it.
Okay. Stupid questions. Well, I'm obviously... Okay, stupid questions. Obviously, I think this term is very loaded and full of bias, but that kind of goes without saying, so much so that I had to say it. Stupid questions for me are... stupid questions for me are interruptions. Are unwanted interruptions.
Yeah.
Stupid questions for me are when I feel like somebody is asking me, and fairly or unfairly, right? I'm not saying that this is a nice way to necessarily judge an action or a question, but stupid questions for me are ones that are asked that I believe in that moment are inappropriate, or that I believe in that moment could have been figured out themselves. Yeah. Or that's the one hand, but also, like, you know, with a bit of self-awareness on my part, because it's occasionally important, you know, when I think something, laughing at me, when I think something's a stupid question, I often ask myself, okay, do I think this is a stupid question because I'm privileged to know the answer? Do I think this is a stupid question because I'm in a situation where it's obvious to me, and then do I have to be a bit more aware of, like, what I hold to be obvious and what I hold to be given knowledge, which is just this classic, like, then we're back to this idea of, like, unlearning. So there you go. There's my very tentative and kind of a bit of a boring answer to stupid questions, but I'm dying to know why you want to talk about it.
No, all that stuff runs through my head as well, and I think it's obviously a bit of a silly thing to say, isn't it? Because in principle there aren't any stupid questions. There's, I mean, a lot of this as well is to do with timing, but I do often find myself telling myself, like, that was a stupid question, and a lot of that is, I think, lack of confidence in a way. And so what will happen is, you know, I'll get excited about an idea or some research, because I'm doing a lot of research at the moment, and then I'll kind of just get to the end of the day and be sort of super frustrated and just think, oh, I bet X knows the answer to this. And then I just impulsively, and also because I do like to get in touch with people and just sort of say hi and stuff, be sociable. So I'll just sort of send a question off to someone and then immediately be like, oh, was that a stupid question? Or, like, I mean, I won't do it if I can find the answer myself. That's one thing. Like, I will always have looked. But sometimes, you know, you can ask a stupid question when you're getting to know someone and you haven't established, like, what the parameters are yet. Excuse me. And then you'll ask a question and just be like, oh God, was that really inappropriate? But they'll just have their notifications off. And then 2 days will go by and you'll get to the end of that 2 days and the whole thing will just be like, oh, it's fine, it really doesn't matter. And then it will come around again and you'll be like, oh, okay, fine, no, there's no such thing as a stupid question, that's all right, that's fine. And then the next day you just do it again.
I mean, I love your answer. I love your answer because it's kind of given me a glimpse into how the other half live, because maybe I'm on the other end of that. And now I realise, like, all those times I've been mean to people who've asked me stupid questions, and they're going through this, like, downward spiral of insecurity and questioning their feelings of, questioning their sense of, not sense of worth, but, like, questioning their own intelligence. So, yeah, I apologise to you on behalf of everyone else who might have done that to you, Alex.
No, not at all. It's a good process to go through. I think it's all right.
Maybe I should. You're making me. Yeah, maybe I should. Making me. I should humble myself a bit more. Good one. All right, let's get on the next one. Oh.
All right, you choose. I think there's only 2 left anyway.
Oh, lordy lords.
Yeah.
Oh, why did I choose that? I chose censorship.
Yeah, when I saw that one coming up, and I was like, "There's going to be trouble."
Go for it. You go for it.
So I think the thing with censorship is that I've had such a privileged background, such a privileged life that I don't think I've ever been censored. I've had great people, like, support what I do, and I think pretty much even if the politics have been in question, it's been like, you should have your your say and you should have your freedom of speech. On the other hand, censorship's a huge ordeal, and it's an incredibly painful subject for a lot of people, and it comes out more and more, and that kind of bubble that I'm in just illustrates, the fact that I've had very little kind of like hatred directed at me on the internet, for example, which is a day-to-day affair for many, many people. So the problem now with censorship is that it's gotten to a kind of a high pitch, so far as I can tell. Like, it's got to a sort of a high pitch of this thing called call-out culture, which is like another kind of actually interesting dimension to all of this. And I think when I see things like cancel culture and call-out culture, and I speak to people, and like people say to me like, oh, is that like good or bad? I'll be like, well, it's always about who is calling out whom, and what is being cancelled and why, and does that contribute? And people are always going to argue about the kind of relative worth and the politics of like cancelling someone, for example. But at the end of the day, it's like so many of these things, isn't it? It's like, look at the power structure and work it out for yourself. Like, does that person have a platform? No, then maybe they should be able to have a platform, even if the ideas are repugnant or like they're problematic. If they have a problem and they're using their problem to call out their own being cancelled and stuff, then yeah, maybe it's okay to cancel them. The only thing I'd add to that is that censorship is a double-edged sword, isn't it? It's
sure.
Something which is important and legitimate within a certain context, obviously within like very racialized and like misogynistic speech and hate speech. I don't have any problem with that being called out and being censored. It's just that at the end of the day, if you find yourself spending a lot of your time doing that, then you can also find yourself being the person that no longer has the speech. You can have words to use that are no longer available.
Okay. Yeah. No, yeah, I mean, God, I feel like I've not said much. Let me think. I think it's a really tricky one. I think I added it because what I like about Off-Air Gems is that it forces us, like, there's we don't plan it very much. We pick these words, and these words are often results of anecdotes or experiences that we've had in the time between the shows, right? And which I think is really beautiful. I like that a lot. And actually, this little incident with the interruption was because of something to do with censorship. And it was this weird thing where they'd been censored loads of times, and so they misconstrued my interruption as being a form of censorship. But actually, I think it's more interesting to say, like, just what I'm thinking now. Call out culture and cancelling culture can be two different things. What I think is a shame is, on the one hand, if to criticize something doesn't mean to cancel it. I think that is a shame in some contexts. I think what you said is really good. Like, obviously we have to consider, like, what's the platform, what's being said, who's being harmed, who's benefiting from it, and you've made those points clearly already. But I do think, this is a tricky one. Like, some days I wake up and I'm just like, I do believe in no platforming some people at certain times, of course. But then I think the decision is often a reaction to my morals or my senses or my sensitivities or my own feelings or my own experience, But I do believe that we need to learn how to criticize each other, critique each other, and not cancel. I don't know. It's a bit tricky, isn't it?
Yeah, it's tricky, and it's a durational thing, and you can. I think what I found recently is that, like, you can give someone the benefit of the doubt, and you can try and develop your argumentative skills and your rhetoric, but like over an 8-year period, I think at the end of that you sort of think, oh, you know what? I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not going to listen. I'm not going to respond. I actually don't need this. This is no longer in any way constructive to me, and I've put up with it for too long. So yeah, I think it has to be. You have to make a call on it. You have to make a judgment call on it individually as well.
I love how we're both kind of dancing around this quite nicely, because we both want kind of friends and careers after this, and it's
Yeah.
Like I and do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I'm so
We're self-censoring, is what you're saying.
no, but I'm so grateful for the fact that neither of us are asking each other, okay, what would you censor, what would you call out, what would you cancel? Because I don't want to get into that with you just yet. We can, well, we could next time, but it could get a bit. Anyway, who knows? Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? Moving on. Oh, what's left?
Okay. Well, the last word in our little bundle of gems is phenomenology.
All right. Okay. So I chose this because, like a lot of people, I've just been reading Sarah Ahmed on being included. And Sarah Ahmed talks about diversity as being a phenomenological practice. In no way, shape, or in no way, shape, or form in these next few minutes am I going to be able to explain that, let alone fully understand that. But I wanted to throw it into the bag of gems because I thought you might have something to say. But my full disclaimer: I need to read a lot more and talk a lot more before I fully know what it means, because I believe it's because it comes from philosophy, and I sometimes just don't understand philosophy because I'm like, I don't get it, it's not concrete. That makes me sound a bit thick. So my understanding of it in this context, my minimal understanding of it in this context is like it's about like the experience, and like phenomenology is like the theory of being conscious of the experience, like it's about the experience and rather than the objective thing that happened. I feel like that's my very basic understanding of it. Please, listeners, call in with your critiques and interruptions of my basic understanding of it. But who knows? Maybe in a few off-air gems times in a few shows' time, we might have like phenomenology too, and we might have read up a bit more on it.
That would be cool, wouldn't it?
But what I thought was nice, okay, but just relating it to the Sarah Ahmed thing, and then I'm going to shut up, is because it talks about, diversity in institutions, and what I thought was really nice is that I think the argument she's trying to make is like these attempts to transform institutions actually lead to knowledge. Like it's actually this experience of transformation that leads to the knowledge, and it's not the other way around. I'm going to leave it at that for now. But yeah, my basic understanding of it that needs more reading, but I just thought it was interesting.
That's very interesting. I mean, I feel like today there's a lot of institutional kind of situations that kind of feed into the subjects and sort of some of the things that we're talking about. I like the idea of knowledge. I mean, also kind of maybe then I like to just briefly reflect that maybe like some of the knowledge that an institution produces is so uncomfortable that it's no longer feels like knowledge, right? It feels like something different. So maybe it feels like something more personal. I guess I feel like I've, like a lot of people, come up against this idea of phenomenology and been sort of browbeaten by someone who knows a bit more than I do about it.
It's all right, not me. That's what you're going to do to me today by knowing a little bit more than me.
Because when that one raised its head, I was like, oh yeah, I remember now. Like, I was probably not. Yeah, I probably didn't really know what I was talking about, and this sort of dropped the word phenomenology into a conversation, and someone was very quickly like, "Oh no, well that's to do with the Enlightenment and going around the world and devaluing animism and destroying the cultures of others under the guise of humanitarian ideals in the 17th century." And I was like, "Oh fuck, sorry, didn't mean to do that at all. That wasn't my intention whatsoever." But then I sort of mentioned it to Anna the other day, and I was like, I don't know what I'm going to say. And she was like, well, it's just about empirical understanding. And I was like, empirical, I can do that because...
Experience, isn't it?
Yeah, you go out and you find it out. It's like, oh, okay. And I didn't really lead to me too much more than that, but...
I think, just to interrupt in it, I think, again, with my basic knowledge of it, listen to it was so humble. I think it's empirical and it's about the experience of it. But is there something that's about how, or one of the questions or one of the critiques or one of the ideas is that you use the thoughts and ideas that this particular phenomena already embodies, you use those thoughts and ideas to like experience it and understand it further. And that's the bit that I'm trying to untangle at the moment. And that's where I think it does really relate to this idea of diversity work in institutions, because you're doing this work to generate knowledge. Like any kind of diversity work, like trying to do a concept, or like doing workshops, or like all these other like more things. We'll do diversity next time, because there I can beat your brow, because I do. I've read stuffs about that. I've read stuffs.
But no, I think that's a point though. I would continue a little bit, because I think if you say, I mean, I think one of the things that came up in one of these kind of email conversations with people about, well, what does like decolonizing look like? What does it mean? How do you do it? Like, what should we do? You know, like sort of white family and friends and stuff, just sort of having like in America, having a quite interesting conversation about what is to be done. And I think what came out of that was just sort of, for me, it was just sort of, well, it's as much about kind of setting targets for yourself and getting involved in conversations and listening, mostly, of course, as it is just about your behavior. And I think I can understand that relationship between phenomenology and sort of decolonizing as a behavioral thing. You know, like, just think about how the gestures you make are read, you know, and that is sort of historically aware and like thinking in terms of how things are received and how they're going to be received because of historical context and racial context and all the other stuff. So yeah, I could well imagine that those things could be constructive together.
I'm wondering, yeah, and I'm wondering if it also means, again, I don't know, like in my attempt to make something sound simple, I'm going to sound like stupid. Maybe it's a stupid question. Oh, we all linked today. I'm wondering if it also means like we experience things through the things we've already experienced, which is again really obvious, but I feel like a lot of philosophical things are really obvious. I think, I don't know. This is something I need to think of. Like you experience something and you view something based on the framework of what you've already experienced, and you use those tools. And I need to untangle that a little bit more and to see what that actually means. But again, it links to this idea of decolonizing, and it links to this idea of it actually does link to this idea of stupid questions and this like potential judgment and like making assumptions on what is deemed to be given knowledge, what is deemed to be already out there and easily accessible. Yeah, there you go. It's all about unlearning bias, basically. The whole thing, all of it.
Cool. Yeah, and you can't see bias unless you somehow have a language for it, right? And I feel like we've done a good job of kind of like constructively interrupting one another without asking too many stupid questions or shouting, and that's in a kind of lived experience one could describe in a sort of phenomenological canon.
Thanks for not censoring me. Yeah, it was great stuff. No, this was great. I loved it. I love it. I liked how the pace was a bit slower this time, which was nice.
Yeah.
It's good. It's good. It's good.
Yeah, it's funny because we've both kind of been on, like, we both had the experience of being on a microphone, kind of, and being able to vent our various interests and woes into the world. But this feels really therapeutic, you know. This is a good format. I'm enjoying this a lot, you know.
We've got a good format and we've got a good name.
Yeah. And now, I was thinking maybe we should do the jingly bit. But is that just really, I mean, it was cheesy last time, but will it be cheesy? Will it be more cheesy to do it now as well?
I don't know. I reckon it's I think it's appropriate. We should probably say our names as well. Or are you going to do a little bit saying our names?
Oh, no. I think we just do it all in one take. I like that.
So should we do, I'm, and then we say the jingle. What is the jingle again? Is it just Off Air Gems?
Yeah.
Okay, I've got an idea. We'll do our names and then we'll say, and this was, and then we'll say Off Air Gems together.
Okay, that's nice.
Let's just do it. You go first.
Okay, this has been Alex Head.
And Shanti, Suki, Osman.
And you've been listening to...
Terrible. All right.
Well,
see you next time.
Have a lovely day. Yeah, have a lovely day, everyone.
You have a good day. Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, turn the mic.